Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 204. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend so far, and we have a lot to cover in today's podcast since another isolated crypto ritual just took place a couple days ago with the biggest crypto hack in the history of this asset class. As some of you might be aware, the popular leverage exchange Bybit was hacked, and the hackers got away with around 1.5 billion in Ethereum. So this officially marks the third week in a row of isolated crypto rituals, making this February in 2025 a month to go down in the crypto history books. And in today's podcast, I'll be sharing my thoughts on all of this. But before we get going, make sure to get relaxed, get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's earlier in the day, or a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice if it's a little later out there wherever you are in the matrix. And a quick reminder to submit an altcoin request. All you need to do is comment below here on Patreon in this post, and that's where you could submit your altcoin request. But keep in mind, we only review projects that have not been covered for at least 3 months and need to have at least 1 year of chart history on TradingView. So if the project has 1 year or more of chart history, preferably, and you've used the search bar here in Patreon to check if I've covered it before, or if I have covered it before, make sure it's at least not been covered in the past 3 months. And then you could go ahead and submit a comment with the name of the altcoin and the ticker symbol, and whatever comments get the most likes, the most thumbs up, will be selected for next week's Red Pill podcast. Now, let's get into today's Red Pill, and I want to start with something I shared recently over on X. So, just heading over here, and I said, biggest single day liquidation event, February 3rd. We all remembered that. Then the biggest rug pull on February 14th, being Libra. Then we have the biggest crypto hack in history, February 21st. The Bybit Ethereum hack of around 1.4 to 1.5 billion. Yet Bitcoin is still at 95K. It's at 96 today. And the XRP community is chilling at 250. If this isn't a sign of strength, then I don't know what to tell you. And I believe that's a fair assessment of the situation right now, given that it's been 3 straight weeks in a row of event after event after event, and we're still holding the macro support for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. But from a technical perspective, we also have to consider the fact that we're getting closer and closer to eclipse season. It's definitely feeling like we're in one of those it can go either way moments. And that's very tough, especially while dealing with a 3-week trading range that's been within a 3K zone for Bitcoin. And we haven't seen a 3-day RSI at these current levels since September of last year, which was right before Bitcoin had its breakout to 100K. You can see here on this particular chart, I have the 12-hour Bitcoin chart with the Bollinger Bands on, and they are incredibly tight right now. So everything's squeezing together quite a bit. And with that being said, that really makes this moment we're in now one of those like make or break vibes. And I don't say that to be dramatic. It's just what we're faced with. Sentiment is completely reset. Fear and greed index is even at neutral, right there at about 50. Price is holding even with all the really bearish sequence of events that have gone down over this month. And don't you find it interesting how Bitcoin was right about to hit 100K moments before the Bybit news hit? It almost feels like it was perfectly timed. It was literally in the midst of breaking out, and then the story released. So classic, right? Anyways, I wanted to check in with the Pi cycle top indicator for Bitcoin since it's been a minute. And you can see that right now, Bitcoin is currently holding the support on the 111-day moving average. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. And we're right there, this gold colored MA. I'll call it the gold moving average from now on for the rest of this analysis. And so far, we've yet to have this particular indicator flash regarding the red dotted line that comes up on the screen, which is the flash of the Pi cycle top. We've yet to have that. And you'll see in the past, this was actually an incredibly accurate indicator, marking all of the 4 significant tops for Bitcoin, even the one that came in over here in 2011. It's pretty damn close, but the past 2 we've had were unbelievably accurate, and even the 2 double peak cycle that we had over here in 2013 was also incredibly accurate, and we haven't had this flash yet. And what causes this signal to flash, for those who don't know, is when this golden moving average crosses above the green moving average. The green moving average is a little bit weird. It's the 350-day moving average times 2. That's whatever that number would be, multiplied by 2. And in order for this phenomenon to occur, Bitcoin, of course, has to get above the green moving average, which, as we record today's video, let me tell you the exact level that is at. Just going to quickly refresh the page. And we're sitting at about 148.5, so around 150K Bitcoin. Now, something interesting to keep in mind is the last time we hit this moving average, and when we got rejected, back down to the gold moving average, guess what month it happened in? Happened in March of 2024. Now, clearly from a structural perspective, our cycle here in 2024 into 2025 is looking a lot more like this cycle back here of 2016 to 2017. And you could see that during that cycle, Bitcoin spent most of its time actually trading within these 2 moving averages, and even had 2 distinct moments where it was trading below the MAs. And we've also effectively had that happen this time around in August through September for both years of 2023 and 2024 last year. So if we in fact have this move up into March, then it will feel like this year 2025 is playing out so far like 2023 and 2024, therefore being very similar to the 2017 cycle, actually also around the same exact time of year. And when we check in on specifically the time frame for 2017, you'll see that Bitcoin did actually attempt to hit this particular green moving average right over here into early March, We did concretely hit it by May, but we tried to get up to it into this rally of early March, but we didn't quite get there. And then it followed by a dramatic correction to the 111-day MA. So that's actually very promising to see, because if that was the case this time around, we would have a retest or a return back to this 98K level that we're at right now after having a pump up first. Question is was this pump that we got over here, this one over here, or was it this one over here? Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, these are going to be slightly different cycles. There's never a possibility that they'll be exactly the same, but we're just taking some things into account here. The fact that so far we are actually working quite similarly to this cycle in 2016, 2017, which had a much more kind of rounded structure, as opposed to this one. It was very violent. It was major blow off top, really like dropped the bottom out, had a massive automatic rally, C19 crash, V-shape recovery, followed by a massive surge in price with a no backtest on the prior top. Whilst this time around, we've had a really nice rally, and then right back here for 8 months, we backtested the prior double top. That's very structurally bullish. So everything that Bitcoin's been doing lately, not only is it similar to past cycles, but it's actually even more bullish this cycle around than the last one regarding structure. And that would also be the case even if Bitcoin was to drop back to like the 70K zone, which I know is like a stomach ache for some people to hear, but it's just a possible kind of, well, it's one of those eclipse type scenarios. It's definitely in the cards. Question is how does it play out? If it's something that plays out, it probably has to be event driven, but it also has to be a little bit more extreme than what we've been getting lately. And what have we been getting lately? Well, no matter what, we're still perfectly holding structure with these 3 recent events. So you guys find that interesting, right? The fact that Bitcoin has had 3 really nasty liquidation ritual event opportunities, but yet we're holding. We're not breaking down like we did with the C19 crash. So we would need something much more extreme globally to happen in order for this type of breakdown back into 70K without at least a little bit of relief. But I want to stay on track here. Because we were entertaining this idea of coming back up and almost getting to this green moving average potentially next month. And the question could be, do I see us hitting the green moving average, which is at about 150K by next month? And the answer is no. Unless something miraculous happens, the best I can see is us pushing up to about 115 to 120K. And if we do in fact get slammed back down to slightly below this 111-day moving average, following that move up to 115 first, then I could entertain us seeing a dramatic V-shaped recovery that's effectively like what we had back in March, April of 2017. It's right here. It's hard to see, but we had like two V's, which became like a really macro W vibe with a not so bullish higher high, but these were 30% corrections both times. So just step by step, if we were to push up to 115 to 120K first, then I would expect us to get slammed back down to the gold moving average, which is somewhere around 98K where we're trading at, 96K where we're trading at now. Then I would anticipate a V-shaped recovery from there and a push higher to that 150K zone and potentially higher than the green moving average, which is typical if we're going to have an absolute top. So if we were to call what we've just recently experienced the top, and we were to get a pullback at this time, it shouldn't be the all-time top. It would just be an opportunity to shake out as many people as possible from this market and then V-shaped recovery from there. I do not think that it would be the all-time and then we go into a bear market where we start breaking below the like September 24 lows. That I do not see that to be the case. If we were to, it would fill the CME gap. It would definitely shake out a lot of people. It would just absolutely slaughter all the leverage in this market. It would give institutions a possibility of buying back quite a bit and then push much, much higher. Crazy thing is that if Bitcoin was to make it to 115 to 120K, it could still come back to 80K. It could still come back to 75K. And that would be your 30 to 35% correction we usually see in these cycles. Clearly, we would all want the first move up to happen before the dramatic move down, but both scenarios are sort of pointing to filling that CME gap below us. The third scenario is the start of a bear market, and the fourth scenario would be Bitcoin just continues green, which I'm feeling those two, the more extreme 3 and 4 scenario, are less likely. For me, I feel like it's going to be a combination where we push a little bit higher soon and then we get a rejection, come back down to the 90s again, break maybe down into 80K, scare out a lot of people, and then push back up with recovery. So I hope I'm providing some clarity here in the midst of everything that I'm breaking down with this particular chart. So far, Pi cycle top indicator, the only way to have it happen is if we were to start trading for an extended period of time above this green moving average, which right now is sitting at 150. Let's get back on track here. So if we were to move up to 150K above that green moving average, that's when I would personally start preparing for these two moving averages to cross naturally and for that Pi cycle top indicator to flash in the coming months, likely within this year of 2025. And to quickly consider the timing of things, when we look at our last cycle of 2021, we can see that I already did the timing for you guys, so you can go check this on your own. But from getting above the green moving average to having the Pi cycle top flash, it was around 120 days. And then in 2017, from getting above the green moving average to having the Pi cycle indicator flash was around 220 days. So if this was to play out as it did in the prior cycles, that would be a minimum of 4 months with Bitcoin trading above 150K. And then the question is, do I see Bitcoin trading above 100K for 4 months and then topping out? Well, not without at least a couple major corrections in the midst of it, similar to 2017. That's just the way that I feel. And you see right here, when we got above the green moving average, we had a nasty dump back down when this yellow moving average started coiling up and getting tighter. This was around a 40% correction, by the way. So imagine Bitcoin going to 150 or 170K and then having a 40% correction and then being bought back up. I'm not saying it's going to play out exactly like that, but that's kind of the game that you walked into, guys. Like, that's the game we're playing here. Big risk, big reward, and it's not going to feel good in the process. It's going to feel wild. This is something that I warned about in all of the content I was releasing last year regarding this thing called alt season. It's not easy to navigate because you could have a 2,000 to 4,000 to 20,000% move. But in the midst of that, you could have an 80% correction twice. Most people aren't ready for that. So sure, you move up 1,000%, 80% correction. Then move up again 5,000%, 80% correction. Then move up again, another maybe 500%, and then a bear market starts. And when you measure from the absolute lows to the absolute top, sure, this thing made a, 20,000% move. It seems unbelievable, but looking back at it and saying, oh, I would have sat through all of that, you probably wouldn't have. It's way too difficult to navigate. So we're going to be likely entering a market like that very, very soon. And we've already seen, for the most part, 50 to 70% correction across the board multiple times throughout the past 2 years. So you guys know I'm not making this stuff up. It's pretty common, even in today's market. So this is not looking back at what happened in 2017 or what happened in our last cycle of 2021. This is stuff that's just recently happened to a lot of projects, right? So getting back to this, I don't really feel that Bitcoin will be spending 4 or more months above 150K unless we were to get some major corrections. And based on my analysis, all we need is Bitcoin to break concretely above like 110K to have the next explosive phase for the altcoins. Of course, depending on Bitcoin dominance, which as of right now is still in an uptrend. And if we were to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is very important right now, especially with most people being altcoin holders, pulling up Bitcoin dominance, I'm going to turn off this noise right here, but I want to turn on this indicator. It's called VPVR or VRVP. For those that don't know, it's Visible Range Volume Profile Indicator, also called VPVR. Put it on the daily. I'm getting very close to no longer using the TradingView app anymore. I've been dealing with a lot of problems with it, and I feel it's not the way. All right. You see where we are now? We're in a cluster of volume. All right. We've spent quite a bit of time here in this particular level of around 61%. Let's go to the weekly, get even more data. All right. Cool. So you see that once we get above 62%, it's thin air until 64, right around here. And 64 to 65 is where we have the next chunk of noticeable volume around this specific percentage. Whilst the POC, the point of control, this red line right over here, it sits around 42%, with that being where we came back in both of our past alt seasons. So if people want to know where are we likely to go to for Bitcoin dominance to have this wild alt season everyone wants, well, it's around 42%. That's about where you would anticipate us to come back to. And we could, of course, go lower. We can go below 40. It happened in both cycles as well. But we're kind of talking about bear market type vibes too. So, you know, just a bunch of stable coins becoming very dominant at that time and the dollar getting stronger. Same thing you'd have with a market crash, right? And perhaps we will talk a little bit about that later, about the DXY. But anywho, point here is that we also have the opposite side of the extreme, which would be somewhere around 68 to 69% dominance, which again would be the extreme in the range. And I believe it'd be very unusual to see a 70% Bitcoin dominance in this cycle unless, of course, a major event occurs, which at this rate we might as well just accept as becoming a higher and higher possibility. Because it's like every week we get some shit that happens, so what's next week? Let's hear from you guys in the comment section. What's next? And don't say Kanye West coin, because that's not that big of a deal. Like, what's really next? Is it like, it can't be a meme coin. It has to be like, it has to be something different. It has to be like Coinbase explodes, or like the whole country of China goes into a civil war, and it's like the robots get activated with a hive mind and start like, what's next, right? It's like the wildest February in the history of my life. Anyways, now another thing that's similar with our cycle here in 2025 and the 2017 cycle is the stock to flow model, which perhaps a lot of you guys don't really care about and you're not really too interested in, but I do feel like there's something to this because there is a repeating pattern, and we do have Bitcoin getting above the stock to flow model in every past cycle. So until it's broken completely. Now, my take on Plan B and the people that are like kind of behind the utility of the stock to flow model and like that being their only way of analyzing this market, that's not my steez. That's not me, right? But I have been I have been finding this to be useful. It's not completely broken in my opinion. And the fact that, okay, I'll just go through it because then I could tell you why I feel it's useful and why it's not broken. And again, whatever you get from Plan B or the other people that use this solely, I'm not a promoter of them. I don't really know what they do. I'm just sharing my own analysis and my own take from looking at this particular chart. All right, I'm staying neutral here. Don't shoot any arrows at me, all right? Because every time I bring up this stuff, people are like, Plan B is a scammer or something. I'm like, whatever, dude, shut up. I don't care. I'm just taking this chart. I'm using it. Just like I didn't build the highway that I drove on yesterday. The guy who built it or whatever might have beat his wife and like, what am I going to do? Dude, you have to drive down the road. This is the road that we're driving down, and it's pretty fucking amazing. Like, can you come up with a model that was invented at such an early time that this thing's pretty much been respecting since? Probably not, no offense. So anyways, there's a lot of negativity about this stuff, and I just want to clear the air because to me it's not important what the influencers are doing. It's just a tool, right? Look at it like, take what you resonate with, leave the rest. Getting back to this, we have, after the halving, which is this dotted line here, we effectively trade along the top of the stock to flow model in the year of 2020. But in 2017, we were right under it, still following the stock to flow line. Here we were on top, here we were under it. Here we had a much higher market cap, and here we had a much lower market cap. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic that we got this cycle the way that we got it, but color to color comparisons, it's nearly identical. We effectively did top in this lime green color. We effectively did bottom at the same blue color every time. So like, if this shit's not broken, don't completely disregard it, right? Now we are running into a problem, and I want to talk a little bit about that in a moment. For those that actually do find this to still be useful and perhaps allows us to see into the future in some regards. I was just saying a second ago before I was going on my little stream of consciousness that there are similarities to what we're seeing right now and with what we had in 2017. The fact that we're under stock to flow, but we're still kind of curving up in that fashion. Now, if we were to look at our 3 past halvings, here, here, and here, Bitcoin was pretty much at the same exact position every time. So that's very important to consider, along with the fact that every past complete cycle, Bitcoin was above the stock to flow model in this bright lime green color, which is around, let's call it 800 days before the next block rewards halving. Now, according to the current countdown timers that I was able to find, it shows that the next halving for Bitcoin will be in late March 2028. That's not going to be specific, but let's just call it late March, last week of March of 2028. Of course, this will change over time, but that's the approximate next halving date. And I want to go over here and I just want to plug in this late March timeframe. Let's call it March 2028, March 24th. And if we were to look 800 days before, this would be interesting. It's going to be around January 2026. Pretty weird, right? That's about 1 full year after we've just recently topped. Now, it doesn't need to be exact, and we all know that Bitcoin loves to top in Q4. It has the tendency to top in November or December in every cycle, even that weird one that we had last cycle into November. So it still puts us around that 800-day range when we would be this lime green color. So that's just one thing to mention. For the people that really truly feel like a 4-year cycle is debunked and there's no way to believe in it, like, we still don't know, right? And that was why in the last couple red pills, I brought up this Amazon chart and the Apple chart. I might talk about that a little bit later too. But when I brought that up, I was bringing that up for a reason, because Bitcoin might just continue to like mosey on up over and over with smaller corrections and like no actual true bear market anymore. And it might just be like whatever basket of stuff trades together, such as the ISO projects tend to do this, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is doing its own thing. But then we have like Ethereum, all the ERC20 stuff. And then we have Solana now, obviously a big part of the conversation. It's become even bigger part of the conversation since everything going on with these meme coins. And then you have stuff that's built on other chains, you know, and that could just be like dealing with its own independent cycles with Bitcoin as the overall energy. So if Bitcoin was to only have 30 to 40% corrections moving forward, look at what just happened. Bitcoin had a 10 to 11% correction, and we have seen a lot of altcoins lose 70% of their value. That's fucking crazy, right? So like they're in bear markets every couple months at this point. Like, and Bitcoin's just holding and holding and rising and rising. So the fact that we've been trading like this for the past 2 years, and if we are to move up into March, April, like we had last year and the year before, then like it's pretty concrete that Bitcoin might not have these crazy crash bear markets that we're used to getting. I'm just saying, you know? Anyways, getting back to this, because I know people are going to be like, well, that's impossible, Waters. Like, where are you coming out with this stuff? And it's like, well, think about where we're at right now. No normal person owns Satoshis. They don't, no retail investors hold this thing. This is all whales. This is literally becoming the most centralized thing, right? And the governments want to buy more and more of it. So it's not my opinion, just it's the information's out there, it's available. It's pretty much American government, Satoshi, which is also probably American government, Daddy Zion, German government, couple others. It's pretty much just going to continue to go that way, especially with institutional involvement. They're not going to allow for 70% bear markets. Just, it's not going to happen, guys. Like, I'm starting to really like reevaluate that way of thinking. And seeing how much damage and destruction Bitcoin could do with just small little moves to the altcoins is like wild, you know? So anyways, getting back to this, we plugged in the dates. We got something that gave us around the beginning of January 2026 if we were to follow the same kind of timing to the next halving. Now, as of today, which is February 23rd of 2025, this would give us, oh, sorry about that, 2028. This would give us about 1,100 days till the halving. And if we were to check in with the stock to flow model, you see it right around here at the 1,000 day mark when we have this like tennis ball green color. Well, based on our past performance, when we get to that color, we've effectively caught up to stock to flow model in all past cycles. Well, what would 1,000 days from March 2028 be? And what it gives me is around late June. So now we have an issue. Starting around May of this year, when we go to the stock to flow model, that's when this stock to flow model plateaus. It's when it makes like the stair step up. And where does it step up to? Yeah, you're reading that correctly. It's almost $400,000 Bitcoin. So, Waters, do you see Bitcoin going to 400K by June? Again, no. Not unless something epic occurs, because that would be an $8 trillion market cap. And at this time, we're sitting right under 2 trillion. So just so you're aware, the second biggest market cap is Apple, which has around 3.6 trillion, 3.7. Bitcoin would be effectively a higher market cap than Apple and Nvidia combined in order to reach a 400K Bitcoin. Do I feel this is possible? Sure, but within this calendar year of 2025, I doubt it. We'd need QE, multiple relevant tech companies, and major banks accumulating, publicly exposing their accumulations too. Like, it would have to be documented, official, like SEC level fucking paperwork. And maybe Trump removing capital gains taxes for crypto sales, because just the tariff thing has scared a couple of big tech companies into creating factories here in the US, which I do believe is legitimate. Like, even Apple has publicly announced this decision to stop building in, I believe it was Mexico, and start building in America. And he also came out and said that he wants to make the USA the AI and crypto capital of the world. So if that is the way we're heading with the Aquarian economy and all the things that we've been teaching here at Waters Above, then I want you to think that if they remove crypto capital gains taxes in this country, that would be all they would need to start a chain reaction. Just like the tariff situation here in the States has started a chain reaction. Why? Because the United States is the Garden of Eden of this New World Order, and it will continue to be until we have a cataclysm, a global world reset. And I'm not just talking about like a debt reset, I'm talking about a species reset, like the end. Am I concerned that that's going to happen? No. Do I think that will happen in 2030 or 2050 or 2060? Probably not. Okay, but they are setting the world up for that world, right? And all the things with the Internet of Things, humanoid robotics being created and effectively going to launch very soon. All the things going on with Tesla, with self-driving cars, robo-taxis, you name it. That's just setting the kind of path for it, right? For a you'll own nothing and be happy world, which we'll save to talk about in a future podcast. But what I'm saying right now is just that move of removing capital gains taxes on crypto, which I want to make a comment on this, and I want people to not necessarily challenge me here, because it's probably a waste of time for all of us, because none of our opinions matter anyways. But if there was to be some sort of no capital gains taxes, and then the people that are saying that Bitcoin would be, but like XRP and these American companies won't be, how can you make the determination that Bitcoin is tied to any particular country, right? Like, so I believe Trump, because that's the only crypto he knows, at least exoterically, that's the only one that he's come out and talked about, which we know he's tied into Ripple. Like, we're not dumb here. But what I'm trying to say is, it's kind of this narrative that's being created by the XRP army that it's like my team's going to win and everyone else is going to lose. And like, that's a very dangerous mindset. So you would be actually benefiting more from the only Bitcoin being not capital gains taxes when it comes to my bags pump, you know, because that's all people care about. All people care about in this market is, when will my bags pump? Even if the most evil people on the planet were the ones causing it. That's how sad the crypto community has that's what the crypto community has changed into, right? It's like, as long as daddy pumps my bags, even if they're my slavers, I don't give a shit, right? That's kind of the change of tone since the early days of cryptocurrency, from what I've studied. So all we would need is that one implementation, just for Bitcoin to not be. Now, obviously, it won't just be Bitcoin. It's impossible. They would have to do the whole thing. They couldn't possibly sit around isolating everything out. It would require way too many intricate things brought into the system. So, I mean, I'm just saying what I'm saying so that I could like debunk some things, because I've seen some of this stuff shared on the internet where people are like, it will only be the ISO 220, like it'll only be American crypto company. No, I don't feel that way at all. It'll include Ethereum. It'll include all the cryptocurrencies that are like operating out of, and also like, let's just be honest here. You know, all these companies that you're naming that are part of this are all like in Puerto Rico, right? Or they're in some Caribbean island, or yeah. So like, sorry, but like if the people of Algorand and IOTA and all of them are like living in Puerto Rico, it's like, okay. Well, anyways, I know we could go down this rabbit hole a lot, but I am personally believing this is a possibility this year. It could actually go down. Why should it go down? Well, because there'd be more, that would allow for more adoption. That would allow for more people to dabble in it. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be forever more bullish, but I do think it'll open up the floodgates in a lot of ways. And then the last thing is these potential kind of like Doge dividends, these $5,000 checks, which I don't know if they're going to do. I'm not sure if that's like 100% confirmed, but that would be like the stimulus check situation. And we remember what happened in 2020 when that went down into 2021, right? So, I mean, we'd need to have a lot of developments in order to see Bitcoin over, 250K, in my opinion. And of course, during this year, one or several of those things I mentioned could play out. And that'll likely be what it takes to see Bitcoin break above 150K. But at this time, I'm not here to play the game of hopium or to tell anyone on any extreme upside targets, because I'm a real one, and we just need to take this one step at a time with the way things have been going on the world stage lately. Very, very volatile times. So to conclude this pi cycle top indicator and stock to flow model analysis, I do believe we'll need a retest of this green moving average during our cycle on this pi cycle chart. That'll be around 150K. I do believe we'll get above it this year, likely in June or July, leading into August. And if we could continue up and actually accomplish this before then that means we're currently in the most epic bear trap of all time. And that can mean that the correction we have leading into the start of our lunar cycle is different this time around. And perhaps moving forward, like I started to bring up earlier, we no longer have these 70 to 80% corrections for Bitcoin for our quote unquote bear markets. And it turns out more like the Amazon chart, for example. I showed you that in a recent Red Pill podcast. Another example was the Apple chart, how once it got through the dot-com bubble and the 2008 crash, it continued up with only 30 to 40% corrections along the way. For instance, last year, Bitcoin had a 33% correction. We get back to the Bitcoin chart. Sloppy Sundays, eh? It's always shaky on the weekends. But this right here was a 33% correction for Bitcoin. Boom, boom. From the March peak to the August lows. Perhaps in the short term, Bitcoin pushes up to that 120K level, which I believe I'm probably not alone in this analysis. And then we have that 30% correction down to around the high 80s. Maybe even use that moment to flash below 80, fill that CME gap. And then we start our next phase up to 150, where we'd interact with that green moving average on the pi cycle top indicator, the 350-day MA times 2. That to me is a very plausible outcome. And the move here would be, well, I think if Bitcoin's going to get moving, it has to do it like immediately, like very soon. Get up to above 110 in the short term, push down, then get back maybe June would make sense. And that also aligns with the stock to flow model with this change of color from the yellow into this like tennis ball green. So I'm giving everyone the timing right now. That's how I feel it will likely go down. It's just right now we're in this very strange past 3 weeks where the market is kind of teeter-tottering around, right? So we're definitely in a very precarious zone, and we have Bitcoin sitting on the edge of the cliff with some of the lowest volatility we've seen in quite a while. And when we pull up the Bitcoin weekly chart, which we're on right now, if we just look at the volume, let me pull that indicator up. You can see. Let me zoom out. I mean, dude, these are the past two tops. We're in the Bitcoin index chart, guys. Look at this volume compared to the way that we were looking in the last the ends of our cycles. We have insanely low volume right now. And the fact that we have Bitcoin dominance above 60%, no new all-time high for Ethereum, no Pi cycle top cross, it just doesn't have that end of the bull run signature. But we are, in fact, less than 3 weeks from the total lunar eclipse. So we have to be ready for some wild energy to kick into the crypto market very soon. Now let's get into the charts, do some traditional technical analysis. And since next Saturday, before our upcoming, next week's Red Pill podcast, will be the monthly close for February, I'd actually like to start there for our analysis on the monthly candles, which very interesting. And this isn't like rocket science, but what I want to show you is we're looking at the monthly candles right now, and you see the top of the November candle, the break right here into our month of December, and we're effectively back testing right there at the top of that particular candle, which is a decent sign that we're holding up. The poor signature would be, well, let's go to the last bull run into bear market. The fact that we push green up following this particular like inverted hammer, if you want to call it, like that's a very precarious structure to begin with. Also, the fact that we have pretty low volume generally, like comparatively to some of these major pump moves or the major dump volume that we saw over here in May of 2021, which I know that's like the eclipse volume and something to consider. But looking back at this cycle too, we're getting so much more volume in general around this time. But what we're seeing is effectively feeling like some kind of setup like this, where we have start of a breakout, indecision candle, another candle that can't quite make it, and then we have this really strange red candle in the midst of things, and then we continue higher. Well, could effectively be similar, and also right here, a similar effect of when we started to get kind of sideways and we just had this one red month that was actually holding. Well, let me zoom in so you guys don't feel like what I'm saying is random. But you see this peak over here? That was your automatic rally. Well, that red candle that we had over here in the midst of our attempt to break out was actually just a back test of this automatic rally before continuation. And then we just had green, 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 green. That could be seen as this move right here, but the fact that we had another 8 months back testing perfectly on the top of this double top, which I brought up earlier, and then another breakout, it feels so much more like 2017, where we're just holding now and continuing higher and then going sideways and continuing higher and holding sideways. Big difference is the fact that we're around 100K now. And that's a psychological level that a lot of people either didn't expect or they did. And now that we've kind of had a couple of pushes up to like 107, 108, even that one to 109, and those harsh rejections that have come, it's actually kind of nice if we were to consider that Bitcoin would just hold these levels for another 3 to 4 months before another impulse, quite similar to this structure over here and similar to this structure over here. What happened though was this was March, April, this was March, April, and now we're about to move into those 2 months. So we had this March bullish, this March bullish. Obviously the difference is this upcoming March will be a lunar eclipse. So not the most sophisticated analysis, of course, but the fact that we're backtesting this candle from November, the breakout month, remember, because this was the month of the election where everyone said Trump was the reason that we're just going to go up to Valhalla. And then since that's obviously not been the case, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I want to see on a monthly structure. And it could very well be mimicking that micro bottoming structure. Well, let's look at the 2 week. That's going to come in not this week, but the following. Very indecisive here, but not breaking structure. So this red candle that we have, it's just a higher low in the short term. Let's look at the weekly. Again, holding structure until we break below 93.5. So this is perfectly fine, the type of price action that we're getting right now. But indecision, multiple weeks of indecision after this major washout that we had on February 3rd. Let's look at the 5-day. Crazy, right? Just super, super low volatility. Nothing really going on. Should be pulling up the moving averages at the same time. Got the 21 holding support on the 5-day chart, and the 13 is showing resistance on the 5-day. That's not a good sign. So just keep that in mind. Now we're looking at the 3-day, and here we have a sign of kind of what happens before a major move, which is we get sandwiched between the 13 and the 34. So that type of structure right there is something that we could launch off of and have a bear trap or a bull trap. Sorry. Or we could have kind of what had happened back in January 2024, which I've talked about before, and that's the ETF approval and launch, and how that actually might be similar to what happened over here with this ETF approval and launch. It's just taking us a little bit more time and we're stalling out. But if you look at the top of January, sort of a similar structure, how we topped out on a exoteric event. Okay, so this was the launch of the Bitcoin ETF. This was the inauguration of Donald Trump. Pull back to the 34 EMA, and then we popped up and we went higher into the month of March. That was what we anticipated. At least that was what I was anticipating for this washout move that we got. But now we're taking our sweet time, and the volatility is lower and lower and lower. And I guess from a technical perspective, if you were to tap into the daily chart and you were to look at declination of volume whilst we're holding like this, that's actually a positive signature, especially if we were trading lower. But yeah, the RSI is like completely reset right now too. So everything is resetting. It's like nothing knows what it wants to do. And that's why it's going to require some energetic shift. And even these isolated rituals that we've been having happen lately, like that can't cause it. So what is it going to be? Like this washout candle here that we had on the 2nd held structure. We had the Libra situation, all this meme coin bullshit, held structure. We had this event happen with the hack, still holding structure, even into this weekend when retail is trading alone, and that's who would be suffering most from the Bybit shit, you know? So kind of all very positive in my opinion, because if we shake out more leverage traders, well, then you get those guys out. If you shake up all the meme coin people, well, you get those guys out. And now you're left with just where does the money that's been leaving where does the money that left the stock market go? Where does it go if the Fed turns on the printing press? It's kind of just going to inject into this casino again, right? And it needs to have a washout before it occurs. So the question is, was our washout the one we recently just had? Well, the fact that it was a historic event and then we had 2 to follow it, are they really going to dump us lower? I would love to know what some of you guys think, but at this time, we're pretty much just at that razor's edge of anything can go. It's a 50-50 complete neutral reset across the board. Let's look at Ethereum, which I believe is holding a macro support. Yep. Crazy low volume too on ETH even after this event. Look at this fucking trend line. It's just holding forever. I mean, crazy to see. Also, ETH having a very positive buyback off of a ETH hack. So we're seeing up about 5%, and this is kind of the level that we've been getting rejected at lately. So a weekly close would be fascinating if we could get it above. Yeah, so that's looking like a reversal. Obviously, I would want it to breach this level right here. That was your flash crash week. So I don't think that's possible in the short term. I'm not sure. No, not today. Unless CME opens later and we get pumped up. That'd be very weird. But at this rate, we're so dramatically bearish across the board that those are the kind of things that kick in randomly on a fresh week. Especially we have the upcoming new moon. This has been an area that ETH has been returning back to for quite some time too. Like we already spend so much time down here. That's why I'm surprised we swiped through all those levels of liquidity. Let's look at the monthly. Probably not looking so great. Well, I mean, still holding structure though, because look at that. We have one, two, three, four candles in a row, kind of just holding on this 2,500 level. That's very psychological. And then the pump up, but since back testing, and the back test did technically come back to this automatic rally level in April 2023 on multiple flash zones. Wait 1 second, guys. All right. So this actually looks very decent, even though we have had a 15% red month. I mean, we've technically held very well for the fact that we've had all these negative events. I mean, pretty wild to see actually from a monthly perspective. When you just zoom out and you're like, well, okay, well, we're holding structure. So trend is your friend until it ends, right? So this isn't that bad. Definitely not. Let's look at the daily chart, maybe throw on the Bollinger Bands, see what's going up. I mean, crazy low volatility, a bandwidth that we've had lately. Yeah, look at this fucking 12-hour. Crazy tight and for a very elongated time. Some might be calling this a bear flag, right? Technically, like that's what some people might want to call this. Very tough on these technical patterns. I bet a lot of people want to call the Bitcoin chart a head and shoulders too. That's like one of the things, guys, is like the elite who run the world, they know everyone's looking at the same charts and they're looking at the same patterns. So when everyone's calling for a head and shoulders, I mean, that's what they're going to do the opposite of. Like, I mean, just how it goes. We've seen it happen so many times. This isn't stocks. All right, we're looking at the daily chart or the 12-hour chart on XRP. We got a lot more expansion, but we should check in with our fractal, which has been very fascinating for XRP, how it's been trading along this fractal. Crazy. Okay, so you see the green? The reason I picked this particular fractal is because we had this move here high, and then we had an additional move higher. That's very rare for XRP. With XRP, we usually see this where the first move is the highest. So I know it's a little bit messy of a chart, but usually the first move is the highest. So there's plenty of examples. So you have up there, correction, first move is your highest, lower high. So typical bear trap or bull trap, excuse me. Typical bull trap. High, bull trap. All just kind of like getting rejected off the same levels. But when it peaks up, it's always higher first on the initial peak. It's very rarely that we go push up again, hold a new level, and then come back down later. Like it's just these BART heads over and over and over again. So this was definitely a different type of structure, what we're seeing up here. I know it's a little messy, but that's why I'm feeling like this one makes the most sense. So you see this major move up, then chop, and then another move higher, then chop, and then we get this rejection down. Well, that to me looks like what we've just gotten recently. So we have a major move up, chop, another move up, and then this move down. And the way it's cupping like this, like the way it's cascading off and it's becoming this cup, that's what I feel this is right here. So the way that it's trading to the downside and then building this particular structure. Again, I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. It's just we always see XRP move up the highest first and then lows and then a bull trap. Highest first, bull trap. It's very rare where it does this. Moves up and then spends a whole bunch of time up here, 40 fucking days, then pops up again, and then it's just the end. You know, like we don't ever see head and shoulders on XRP, very, very rarely. And if you were to, you'd be reaching. Because I've been pretty much professionally trading this coin for 4 or 5, going on 5 years now. And I'm so used to the structures. This is why I took some, this is why I did some de-risking back over here during this event, and then I bought back in. Because I'm used to this type of structure that occurs. And that's what I think this is. So anyways, that's the fractal. It's from here to here is the fractal that I've been analyzing lately, and we are fucking following it. Like we're literally following it. We got up to the exact level, got rejected. There's definitely a lot of trend lines that we're seeing here, and then also the bottom of the golden pocket where some bad signs. Like you don't want to be stalled out here because then it becomes like a dead cat bounce. But I don't think that's the case. Again, unless Bitcoin completely keels over. But here, it shows you that we pretty much have to deal with this chop all the way until like around the 28th, and then it pops up, and then I don't know what the hell happens here. Now, the days that this all aligns with is not weird, because we see in a couple of Bitcoin charts it's something about March 5th into March 6th. I don't know why, but like there's something going on. And in 2017 we had a weird kind of flash correction, and then we got bought back up. So this isn't far off. And then it shows a move up to like 8 in March. Now I'm not saying it's going to go down like this, but again, I don't think I'm alone with this kind of setup. I really don't, unless I'm in La La Land, and we're talking about a coin toss at this point, right? I'm sure there's many analysts that are well respected, that are maybe 100 times better at TA than I am, that are calling for a move like this. And then there's a lot of people that are just forever believing that we're always going to go down, and they believe that we were going to go down back here. So it's just coin toss mode. And I think a lot of people, what happens, like who don't know TA, or who have like risked all of their life savings on these types of investments, they just want to know, like, what is the project going to do next, right? And that puts the pressure on the analysts, because I get it. Like, if you're in a situation where you don't really know how to read these charts, and then you're looking at the XRP chart, which looks like this, it's chaos, man. I mean, look at the last cycle. Let me get to this other chart. It's kind of the reason I like this trade, because it's a fucking roller coaster. Like, I like the chaos. You guys know me, I'm chill. Like, I think everyone should just become more chill here and learn how to invest better. Don't risk your whole life on this stuff. Know how to invest better. Know when you're overexposed. Never put yourself in a position where you're overexposed, especially in a market that's this volatile. Okay. We would have this major move, no different than this right here. But the question is, do we then get met with all this chop? Well, it would be only if we were to go higher. So I think, like, at this point, what are we on? We're at this 80, almost 90 days now, about 3 months. We are much deeper into this than this move right here. But we did almost get that back test. Let me see if I was to put it on. Yeah, I mean, if I was to switch it up, we're technically at that golden pocket at the top zone right here, primed. Let me zoom in. It looks really messed up. But basically, all of this chop that we've been having lately is right between the golden pocket and a little bit of time trading above the 888. And once we sank below it, now we're kind of at the upper half of this trading range. So we had the lower half is already complete. Now we're at the upper half between here and around, 280. Then the next swipe would be the one that sends you to the top of this resistance over here, which, let me show you. By March 13th, it's 380. So it'd be a new all-time high if it was to push up that way. But what it seems to be is following the fractal more, where we have a little bit more chop ahead of us. Maybe even another swipe down coming sometime next week. And then it's like a W breakout. And this is soon. Sunday, March 2nd. So that's next week. Wait 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, so that's next week. It's pushing us up to about 320 along this fractal, which so far has been playing out, the timing of it and everything, the way that the top structure came in, the way that the correction came down, where it bottomed, where it got rejected, and where it's starting to do the second V of the W. It's nearly identical. So this pushes us up to around 320. Now the thing is if we were to make it up there and nobody's taken any profits and you're worried about the eclipse crash, and if we were to get another volatile smack down, there's nothing wrong with taking a little out of the gambling casino up here. I'm being serious, guys, because these types of flash corrections, they could be very random, and like you just don't know how to emotionally react. And if you're somebody who's emotionally reactive to this right now, I don't know what to tell you. But I think most of the XRP community is like geared and ready for much higher prices. It's just about teaching some of the investing basics. My fractal right here sends this to about 8. I don't know if it'll happen that fast. April, maybe, but it would need a major move. So I'm not entirely sure how long we'll follow this fractal for. It seems a little too good to be true, especially with timing. But my analysis has been calling for at least a $7 to $8 XRP as my big next upside target, with 4-ish being a more technical short-term target. So could very well go like this, where we pop up to around 4, then we get a wipeout back to like this major support right here, and then we get another move in April. And it's just a massive, like, what the fuck just happened kind of moment. And why would that be possible? Well, that's what we did last cycle. So we did last cycle. Shoot up. Look at this shit. 50% correction. Bull trap. 80% pop, though. The only difference would be this would be more of a continuation because we're in price discovery, while here we had lower highs and we were looking at a 330 XRP, and while we were only at 170. So it's just this structural concept is definitely in the cards. And then over here, obviously, we've looked at this before. This was a 60% correction in the midst of chopping way higher. So a little bit theoretical here, but I have gotten some feedback from many people since I've released my last red pill, talking about how they do hear a lot of talks of potential moves past $4 or $5 for XRP very soon. Obviously, we would need Bitcoin dominance to reverse too. Look at this breakout on gold. So we're going to quickly do a rundown on gold and silver. Wild. So we've effectively broke above the 1618 fib, which is fucking madness. Because what we're looking at with the 1618 is actually the macro pull. So we're going to the weekly. We have the swing high here of August 2011, and we have the swing low of January 16th, and we've broken through that 1618. Now, remember my gold analysis all last year? I started buying gold back in September, October 2023. Got in at about 1800. So my play is up about 60%. Pretty good, because I got kind of in at the last moment before it started the parabolic advance. And we're definitely looking kind of overheated right now, but 3,000 is a huge milestone for gold. And I've been very vocal that I'm not going to be selling my gold anytime soon. I do believe the 5,000 target is in the cards. The timing of that is a little bit tough, but I think in this environment that we're in right now, it's the play. Would I buy today? I don't know. I think you have to ask yourself that maybe in the next bear market, because whatever bear market occurs, it'll be an everything bear market, where Bitcoin might only have a 40% correction or a 50% correction. We'll see altcoins get absolutely wiped, 80, 90, 95%. Gold will also have a large correction, and that might be the move. But we also have to check back in, like, what's the state of the economy when that time comes, like, do we have self-driving car robot taxis, and everyone's getting brain chips? Like we could have that craziness happening next year in 2026. So don't be naive to it, right? What's the state and the condition of the world at large, and is gold the better investment than, for instance, investing in your business, or investing in land, or investing in creating community centers? Like, maybe there's a better vision than getting it on gold right now. Because obviously the ROI opportunity is there, sure. If it was to make it up to that $5,000 level, we're talking the amount of gains that I've experienced already. So for me, that would be a really sick move, sure, on gold especially. But we need to think about the timing on this move. And It could take time to develop. Like we're talking, this could be complete maybe by the end of the year. Hard to time, but it also interesting that in 2020 we got this top in June. Over here we got this top in August. So I think my August top idea is not out of the. It's not weird. It's not weird at all. I think the $4,000 level by August is possible. I'll have to check in then. But as for the gold analysis, trend is your friend. So we're just green, 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 week after week after week. Only thing I would see that would be a disruptor is like this major trend line right here. If we started to break below 2,770, then absolutely could come down to 2.6. Could that happen this year? Well, there is a possibility for us to have like a very weird correction during this year into, we already talked about it, April, maybe May. I think we'll get support there at 2.6. And then maybe that's a place to gobble a little bit. But I'm not sure if we could get the full move. If there's like a crazy liquidity, like a really fucked up thing that would happen, then it's the 1.618 that we would get to 2.4. That's not a call though. That would be very, very weird. And I mean, September of this year, or October, if we were to have a very big shakeup like we did in the 2020 or the 1929 market, then yeah, we can absolutely entertain some massive liquidations across the board if there was to be something that would push people into like a depression style vibe. No, 1 second. All right. Yeah, not the greatest place to take a pause, but you guys know what I mean. 2025 year of the snake is very weird. 26 year of the horse I think is even worse. So these moves should probably be complete within this year or latest Q1 of 2026. Like we're talking January 2026. And that would be a perfect repeat of what we had back in 1966 where we had the year of the horse also topping right there at the beginning of the year. Be very weird. It'd be very weird, and I'm not trying to goalpost move. It's just, again, like we have an unprecedented environment right now. Post C19, we have layoffs, artificial intelligence coming in. The world's never seen this shit before. It's never had it. This is a first. So the first of AI is a very big first. We're talking about a whole revolution of industry change in actively in front of our eyes. Like we didn't have that chat GPT shit back in 2019. And now that we have it, it speaks to us perfectly. It's unbelievable. It's pretty mind blowing. So, anyways, trend is our friend here. And I think the next short term target is the 3,000. Get some weird, kind of energy there. But maybe we get to that 3.1. Be another 5-6%. And if the dollar continues to get weak from here, then that would definitely be in the cards. And I suspect silver is, yeah, still kind of hanging in there. Okay, so we have, ooh, kind of like the XRP move. Got this breakout, correction, higher, high, another correction, and now kind of posturing up. The 888 is big, though, for silver. I've already talked about this. If we can get back above the 888 for silver, we're primed and ready to retest the prior all-time highs. And the speed of doing that could be pretty quick. Like here, I think it did it in like only a month or 4 weeks. Yeah, about 3 to 4 weeks. We shot up above the 888 fib to the one spot extension. So keep that in mind. That speed that could occur could even be in the short term. Now, though, we would have a crazy thing, which is a triple top for silver. Does it keel over from there? That would be fucked up. Because it's like the silver holders are just waiting for their day and doesn't seem to be happening for them. So, yeah. Price discovery on silver has not been a conversation ever since 1980. Will this be the time? Sure. But it's just like, yeah, everything got way more expensive in that timeline. Do we get $100 silver? I don't think so. No, we would need relief, and this is probably heavily shorted across the board. One moment. All right. So yeah, this kind of feels to me like we might end up with another Christmas tree top situation just because of the timing. You know, the timing is kind of lame here. Where in order for it to push back up into the prior all-time highs, short August, you get there by August, and then you're talking with a correction. You would hope that it doesn't turn into this where it's a bull trap and then we go deeper, but that could actually be the case. We might get triple topped on silver in 2025. I'm gonna have to check in with that later, but as of right now, like there's been zero development on this particular chart besides this break above the line that I had somewhere around $28, which was clean because we had distributional top, followed by a ride up this major trend line. Once we broke, we back tested and we pushed higher, higher high. Everything's been kind of in the green since C19 crash, but going slow, admittedly. And then looking back at like 19 or 2010 was your major peak up, and then you have yours the start of this horizontal trading range kicking in pretty much through 1978 into fucking 1980, right? So really long, arduous horizontal trading range. Hard for me to shift bullish or something until we concretely, or hard for me to shift into like a really really ultra bullish vibe until we concretely break into price discovery, which could take time. Could maybe be August. All right, we got three altcoins to look at. One is Aerodrome. This kind of reminds me of a, is it the Wolf of Wall Street? What's the stock in Wolf of Wall Street? Aerotine or some shit like that. The penny stock. Anyways, we're looking at Aerodrome. We have a major double top. That's scary. That came in December. 66% correction since. So pretty tight parallel channel. This thing's been riding and continuing down. So lower high, lower high, lower high over and over and over again. But we made it to the 382, and that's a solid place to be. So let me draw a couple horizontal rays here. Show you what's up. Now we don't want to get resistance here. That'll be fucked. All right, so the plane needs to pull up soon. So we've made it to the promised land. We have this major trend line over here where you can see bear market, stall, deep, selling climax, automatic rally. Get back to it, break below again. Two rejections, M pattern, then your spring. Then you have your sign of strength, backup phase, and buying climax. That might be the end. Yeah, that might be the end. This looks like a bear market, right? Because it's just perpetually selling off over and over and over again. 60%. There's no structure but down, right? So it's just draining. And it's right back at the 382, which it's a technical level where in the macro you kind of do want to hold. The 236 is the ultimate. If it goes all the way down there, you're looking at a major W pattern forming, where you already had your W break bullish, stalled out at the double top. Yeah, this plane has to pull up soon. Very interesting chart because I haven't seen many like this. I do get about one full year of chart history on this. So this is the example of like the shortest history available. And I'm not sure what the trade here was, like what this was tied to, but peaking in April 2024 when everything else did, sinking into July, with which a lot of things did along with Bitcoin. You got your August flash crash, and then you had this September pivot back when Bitcoin was doing its like final run to the lows before October eclipse season. And then it rose up with everything into Q4. But it's not holding like Bitcoin because Bitcoin is like up here. It's had an 11% correction. 11% would have been right here. So this is getting drained. It's just there's no confidence in this. People are leaving. And structurally, that's clear because we've had no elongated structure that's been like this. Not even this. Like we've had a little bit of a attempt here, and that was at higher levels. So we're getting weakness even at 120 too, the bottom of the golden pocket. When you get above the golden pocket and then stall out on a double top and then trade and slice all the way through the golden pocket, coming back down, that's not a sign of strength. That's weak. I'm just giving you guys technicals after technicals. Take notes. This is the type of stuff that you want to keep in mind when you're looking back at older charts to determine, like, okay, well, when should I posture myself in this? Well, if we are really moments away, and when I say moments, I'm talking about in the coming months having a true alt season develop, or at least relief in the altcoins and some sort of buyback, then this is the territory that's kind of more responsible to buy in. It would not be responsible to buy it tops, right? So it's already had quite a drawdown. We've already had hovering at over sold on the RSI, a little bit of structure forming here as well. Yeah, not a whole lot to say though, because very limited chart history. So I can't look back into prior cycles. I can't compare what it did in 2021 in the last cycle or any of that. I'll just wrap it up here and say that, yeah, this is a very speculative altcoin. You want to definitely treat this like venture capital. We're talking like, 1% max if this is your type of investment. And if we are to get any buyback here, clearing 138 is your opportunity to take a little bit off the table if you miss this top, because that's kind of what we do in those moves after this type of structure forms. Mantra, Dow. I don't think I've. Oh, what the fuck am I? What am I looking at? Oh, this is fucking crazy. What am I looking at? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm gonna start talking like a pirate. Shiver me timbers or whatever they say. Fuck, dude. All right, well, you got your target. We're there. We made it to Valhalla. Crazy swipe through. Holy shit. I've not seen many of these. These just straight swipes. That's legendary, dude. Fuck. Good play. Anyone who was in this last 2023, you're sick, dude. Great job. Or woman, or whatever you are. Cyborg person. Great job. One moment. Wow. Yeah, this is a crazy chart. But I mean, it is scary that we are approaching 1618. What are we at on the weekly RSI? We're in like 99. Yeah, we made it to fucking 98, dude. 98. Come on, dude. Come on. That's not good. Yeah. This is toasted. Very wild. How is this still going up? What's going on here? Unbelievable. I don't know what to say. Can't really share too much TA on something that's in price discovery like this, especially when it's like inches away from the 1618. But that might very well be the target that stalls this out. Yeah, we're at the 10 spot fib extension. Nah, this is unsafe territories. I mean, I've seen shit go way higher, but yeah. Wow, though, like Bitcoin does break out here. This thing, wild, wild, wild. Yeah, I don't react like this often. I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. Besides just a massive congratulations to whoever was in this particular project. Great. I mean, 10 to me seems like a psychological level where it's so close to the 1618, which is the technical target. And we are looking at data from back in 2021. So this did technically go 1,400% higher than the 2021 alt season peak. So this is a lot of chart history. We're looking at the weekly chart right now. All of this chop around the prior all-time high looks amazing before this breakout. Like, what do you say? It's near the top, I guess. Because 10's very, very, very weird level. Not many things go from a penny to double digits, you know? Like all the XRP stuff that's going on, like XRP was trading here effectively like 30 to 40 cents, and now it's like here. So this thing is like done crazy. Yeah, congrats. I don't know this, like it's hard to do TA on a chart like this. It's in price discovery. We're heading up to the 1618, which is a technical target. $10 is a psychological level, double digits. For it to go much much higher would have to be, yeah, I guess just more of what's been going on. But it wouldn't be weird to me if we did actually something like this. And then I'm gonna wrap this up. But like if we were to get slightly higher than it and then just kind of snake on it like that, like we did over here, like this kind of like weird ascending wedge. If we were to have something like that, but like with a spring action that back tests right here. You understand? So potential push higher to like 15, but then have this chop zone, a repeat of like that at the technical target, and then a spring down to back test this, which at the higher prices would be a 70% correction. So like what I'm proposing right now is not weird. Like it's giving room for that overextended target of 15. Structurally, that kind of stuff happens. And then we get the chop around the technical 1618, and then we get the drop down to back test this little horizontal trading range, and then that could continue up maybe into the August timeframe. But then, yeah, I don't know what you're looking at now. You're talking about the hope for an 80% move from here. So this is not something that I would recommend to invest in. It's too high. It's like the people that were trying to catch Caspa after it was already supremely overheated, and I was giving out warnings saying like, this is a great play. If you were in this, you did very well if you bought back at the lower end of things. But like, watch out getting in stuff that's at tops. Now we're looking at Balancer. Holy shite, the total opposite. Oh my god, the Lord works in mysterious ways. This is the best red pill right now because it's like, what is happening, dude? Okay, Balancer, has this been just diluted over time? I'm not trying to talk shit. Like, I'm just wondering. Maybe it's been diluted. Yeah, so all time high around alt season of 2021. And it's been in price discovery to the downside. So we're at 97% down from the prior peak, 97 if you count all of the data up there, and it's just been perpetually lower. So let's get some trend lines up in here and clear rejection levels time and time and time and time and time again. Lord, help me get out of hell, because that's where this is trapped. Let's get some horizontal rays. We have a very important one right here. We'll drag it down a little bit just to catch that top. And then we got another one right here. Now we have a little bit of range that if this can pop out of here, which would be very nice, you'd have something like this. This would be the most bullish case scenario, actually. I don't know if it could get back into this range, but I don't think I'm hyperbole by telling you about this play right here. So you get a clear cluster of trading range over here, somewhere around 16 to 20. Again, market cap could have changed on this. I'm not entirely sure. Nor do I really care. But yeah, I don't know if they can make it to the 702, but that would be a very technical move. And then in that case, like pretty decent, 1,000%. I mean, can't complain. As for it getting above 30, I don't know, man. This has just been people leaving and leaving and leaving. And again, this would be called venture capital. You don't put a lot of money in this, but the little bit that you do has a chance to go up to, 800, 900%. And it could also just continue to drop more and more and more till it's below $1, right? That's venture capital. It's a coin toss. You hope for the best. It could turn out like, by the way, this mantra DAO, I think it's called, it's not like it was always awesome. Like, for instance, it lost 97% of its value for 1,000 days. That's not awesome, but being positioned in it when it was very, very like doom and then holding till today, it's fucking 37,000%. So It's kind of you're gambling, but you're gambling at very extremely low levels, as opposed to you wouldn't want to gamble on something that's already in price discovery, already overheated, already. I mean, this thing might be in the top 25 market cap or the top 30 market cap for all I know. I'm not sure, but when you have a performance like this, the money had to come from somewhere, and it definitely spiked up market cap substantially. So yeah, Balancer on the other hand is the complete opposite. So it's like you're already 97% down, which was which was what Mantra came back to at the end of the 2021 cycle. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to repeat that, but that would be kind of like the exaggerated oversold levels at the bottom. Would I personally invest in this? No, because price discovery to the downside, and then with my amount of altcoins that I've already invested in, to me it would just be too much. Like, I'm already over diversified, but most of my plays are about 1 to 2% in my venture capital bag, which is about 20 positions, and then it's like those 5 or so big positions I have. Most of it's Bitcoin and XRP and Ethereum. So my portfolio looks, oh, and actually Dogecoin. So my portfolio looks really, really actually good right now in the grand scheme of things. It has dropped substantially in value since January and December, but when all things are considered, because I treated all those speculative investments as venture capital and only put a very small amount of money in them, well, when you see $1,000 drop to 500 in a much broader portfolio, it's not the same thing as if you had $50,000 in something and it dropped to 25, right? So this is why I've always said what I've said about venture capital. For anyone that's new here, I've done 9 what I'm investing in specials, and I hammered that in the last 6 of them, just continuously saying, this is venture capital to me. This is not a big position. Position number 6, 7, 8, 9 in my portfolio, there's still like 2.5% allocations. So that was always how I've treated my crypto investments, and how everyone should treat crypto investments, because this is very speculative stuff, not regulated, still the wild, wild west. Anyways, yeah, we're pretty extreme lows on Balancer, so this could be a opportunity to nibble a little bit. I think the arrow chart was pretty fascinating, the type of sell-off. Obviously more ROI in the Balancer play, because for this to come back up for a triple top would only be 200%, whilst Balancer has a lot more to go, and then the ohm is just really toasted, overheated. Anyways, let's wrap up today's podcast. Apologies for any little delays here and there. Doing our best to have the best experience, but hope you appreciated all of the stream of consciousness, all the thoughts about what's transpired over the past couple weeks. Very tough time to be an analyst in this market because of how boring it's been, how sideways, and also how much kind of punches we've been taking over the past month, 2 months, and in some cases 3, So it's been feeling like getting punched in the gut so many times now, but we haven't completely seen the top market cap stuff get destroyed. Even Sol, which is taking a hit right now, like, it's not that bad. It does look pretty rough over there for Solana, but I think Bitcoin's going to hold this up generally. And I do believe I'm not alone in those thoughts. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how next week goes with the upcoming new moon. I will be sharing an update midweek if necessary. I'm usually sending out at least 2, so you can look forward to that. And in the meantime, I appreciate and I'm grateful for every single one of you. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your weekend in the Matrix. Much love.